What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another watch list video. Hope you all had a great weekend. Happy Sunday. If you're new here, welcome. I'm just going to do a quick overview of the markets and what I'm personally focusing on. We've got tons of earnings this week, right? Nvidia is a big one, and plenty more. Kind of quick overview, right? CrowdStrike, CRM, Marvell, Rubrik, so many. Okay. You also got, like, I think Jackson Hole on Thursday or Friday, which doesn't mean too much to me, right? All I care about is the price action, how the price reacts. So, I'm just going to keep doing my job every single day, showing up to the screens, and eventually, the market environment will not be so choppy, and it'll be in a better spot that best suits my style to be able to put on a risk. But I feel like the last 2 weeks haven't really felt like that. So I'll be ready. Or I guess you could say definitely the last week for sure. The week before that, maybe it was a little bit confusing, slash gave maybe a little bit of a risk on signal, and then it kind of failed. But I'm ready if that changes though. And I'll flip on a dime. So going through the breadth real quick, right? Way better day on Friday. Let's keep that up this week, right? Whether you're looking at Market Pulse or Pradeep's, right? It was a nice day on Friday after, a heavy 4 days, that's for sure. So like I said, let's try to keep that up this week. Quick overview here, right? We're at a very, very conflicting spot for the QQQ. Okay. We're at the bottom of this mini range, inside of a bigger range. But that Tuesday gap down was kind of like the day to step back and be cautious, right? You also got a bearish engulfing on the weekly. But I think on Friday there was definitely some nice spots for certain names. Like I thought Rubrik was pretty nice. Whether it's just an undercut and rally of a moving average, or of a prior low, because this is a name that you should be focusing on, or it could have been net right at that pivot, or through the prior day low, like undercut and rally at the prior day low, right? I go to a 5-minute chart, even a 30-minute, whatever. Thought that was pretty interesting, right? That prior day low, you kind of undercut it right off the start, whatever. But for me, it's really that pivot closer to the 50-day. But that was another one. Palantir was a name I got involved with on Friday as a 5-minute opening range break. So I thought that was pretty nice. Toast was another one I got involved with on Friday, 5-minute opening range break. Beautiful, nice chart, great group. Zeta, right? And it's funny how these are all going to be in the software group. Zeta was another one, right? Undercut and rally prior day's low. If this was a name that you were eyeing, you saw a little bit of a washout. You saw it kind of wash below the prior day low, and then rally right back through in a sharp way. I thought that was really nice. So I think there was still some stuff possibly to buy on Friday. But I will say Thursday's high on the QQQ is going to be a big spot, right? That we need to get through. And I don't want to see us undercut that fall through day low. So hopefully we can stay above that. I think the NQ is bleeding a little bit in the after hours, but as you can see, that Thursday high, we kind of stayed under it all of day Thursday, and then gapped up into it, and then came up into it again, kind of squatted a little bit. So would like to see us push through that, but I do not want to see us break below that fall through day low. We'll see though. Like I said, we're at a conflicting spot, right? You look at the SPY inside day, it looks like it's trying to build a higher low, coming into the prior highs pivot. Maybe a higher low spot. It's in a mini range, right? It's building this little mini range out here, so will be super interesting to see how it continues to do that. The IWM, your IWM, it looks like another one where it looks like it's trying to find that higher low, but does this look like it yet? I don't know. I can't tell. Same thing with the QQQ. Like, is it kind of like bear flagging out a little bit here, maybe, or not? I don't know. It's hard to tell. So it makes me look at the other groups, right? SMH bearish engulfing on the weekly. You look at the daily, you're kind of building a ledge here. If you go to an hourly chart, you can really see it, or a 30-minute, whatever. You're building a pretty nice ledge, right? So to me, it looks like we might start the week off with a gap down, or just pushing lower. And we'll see from there. If you really want to get involved with that, I think the SOX is obviously super tight. I don't know. Thought this was just maybe a quick idea, but I mean, you look at AMD, and it's building a ledge, and it just doesn't, overall it's building a big range, but in the meantime, last month, few weeks, it's building a ledge, and just pretty weak, and just does not look very good. Intel doesn't look very good. Right, breaking down AVGO, this name was trying to hold up, build a flag, and got absolutely destroyed. TSM is at the 50-day. I will say Nvidia, right, another one with like a bearish engulfing on the weekly, but doesn't look too bad. Could find support at the 50 or at that prior high pivot, right? If you go to a weekly, same spot, could be an interesting area. Right, Micron is obviously your semis, but also memory. So another one where it's interesting, I think out of NVIDIA was like, okay, MU maybe a little bit better back through the 50. Or I guess you could say NVIDIA is better, but MU back through the 50. Marvell is super nice. It had a nice week, or had a nice day on Thursday, and then got absolutely hammered with a bearish engulfing on Friday. So I don't know. There's no setup on stuff like this as it's just grinding higher like this, but it is interesting to keep an eye on it. But nonetheless, I think this group looks like it does want to continue breaking down until something changes. But I want to keep an eye on Micron. I threw it on the list because SanDisk double inside day is super tight, right? You look at the DRAM here, coming into the 50. Not my favorite, right? The group's super weak. This is the only group I think that I threw on the list that out of all of them, it's just been pretty weak, besides SpaceX, which I'll go over. But DRAM, not my favorite look here. And I look at an STX and I think to myself, is it trying to build another higher low, or is this a 2-day bear flag and it's going to want to continue lower? Which that's kind of what it looks like, but who knows? It still has a chance. I will say this WDC, completely avoid this. This looks horrible unless it comes down to support and you're the one that wants to buy it down there. But for the meantime, I just don't think these things look very good. Going over the mags, double inside day, which almost looks like a short-term bear flag unless it wants to break higher. But like you lose the 20-day, you kind of make a move down. You're just like slowly wedging up here. Kind of look on an hourly chart. It looks like it maybe wants to break down. So, but I like the weekly chart. I think it looks awesome. So I can't really feel too negative about this. Or I talked about NVIDIA. It's above the 50 in a big way. It's just barely lost to 20. Can it hold and build a higher low? That's what I'll be watching for. I think Microsoft is kind of that same, maybe building a ledge the last few days, maybe wants to break a little bit lower, but I think into the 20 days / that pivot I got on my screen would also be a good spot. So maybe the market just needs a little bit lower, and then from there we can see if we're going to establish some lows. And I think that would be awesome because there's a ton of names on my list that are software related that give us an inside day. And I think that would be absolutely perfect. And I'll go over those. So hopefully I don't lose track of that. But Amazon, another one. This one, it's like you had a good day Wednesday. Thursday was a failure. And Friday, we're just continuing lower. Like, not much to do here with this one. But you look at a weekly chart and it doesn't look too bad, right? Volume's drying up, 3-week pullback. It's going to eventually, in my opinion, hopefully, I don't own it, but, I'd like to own it. Hopefully find a higher low. So it's interesting. Leafs, that's going to be your Magnificent 7. We talked about the DRAM, right? STX, SanDisk. I just want to watch this one. Double inside day. I can't really tell if it's, a breach and failure of your 50-day double inside day and it wants to break lower, or if it's trying to build a higher low off this move up and this is a flag. So it's hard to say, but nonetheless, I want to keep an eye on it. And if the market is trying to break to the upside and build a higher low, like your SPY and things like that, we'll watch a SanDisk if it wants to go. It's super tight, man. This is a super tight name. Momentum ETF is a good example of just like, your overall momentum stocks and a lot of the AI names, right? Big bearish engulfing, got some, not above average volume, but, bigger than the prior week volume coming in. Not my favorite look. And this kind of just sums up that whole AI trade. Just doesn't look the best right now. Even if we have a bounce week, where is that going to put us, right? We'll see what next week can look like. Let's go over my list real quick. Starting off with BFly. This group has so many names in it that are not only acting awesome, but they just all have identical bases, right? First of all, we saw Eli Lilly, which I think is the leader, and a name I own that I bought on what day was that? Tuesday of last week, which is acting fine, right? Did pull in a little bit on Friday, but got bought up immediately off the open, which I thought was cool. But BFly, same looking base. GH inside day, this name looks awesome, same looking base. Hinge, same looking base. Oscar, same looking base. There's so many in this group that are like giving that identical base that I think look awesome. So all of these pretty much looking at the prior day high, if we can push through that, or like I say, market pulls back maybe a little bit, finds a low. These things put in an inside day. GH is already in inside day. So I will watch this one over Thursday's high / Friday's high. Be an interesting spot depending on how we open, or just as a flat base breakout, right? You got a bunch of areas to work with this one as far as tight risk, depending on how we open up, and the overall base looks pretty good. BFly through the pivot / Friday's high. Same spot lining up, looks really good. Hinge through Friday's higher, give us one inside day. Looks like a cup with handle base. They all kind of look like that cup with handle, so looks pretty good. Oscar, same thing. It's building out a little bit of a flag, a little bit of a handle. Inside day would be absolutely awesome, but you got a tight, low volume week. Building a flag looks really good through Friday's high would be an interesting spot. We'll see how we gap up. Through the pivot is another area I'm watching as a breakout. We'll have to see, but this group looks awesome. And then you even look at Moderna and it's like, okay, digesting that big gap up. Maybe he's going to search for a higher low if it hasn't found one already. Almost like building an hourly flag. Interesting. Something I just want to continue to keep an eye on. This group's been strong, and it's definitely super, super interesting. Dell, right? Are you trying to build a higher low here, which it very possibly looks like it? Another name, big liquid, and is building a double inside day right off the 50 day as a higher low spot. You get a bearish engulfing on the weekly, right? Which isn't my favorite look, but at the same time, I like the daily chart. You kind of just squatted right back in the base, stopped a lot of people out, including myself. But can this be a higher low spot? Will be interesting. I also threw HP on the list, which is out of its base. Not my favorite. I don't know. I feel like Dell's inside days look better as far as like, Friday, you kind of had a washout. You came all the way back. HP, not quite, but I mean, nonetheless, they're identical, right? So pulling into the 20 day, is this going to be a higher low spot? I will watch through Thursday and Friday's high, same spot. If we can push through that, you can see, right? Very tight here last 2 days, right? Double inside day. These things are going to push one way, and I'm going to be watching them, see if they can build higher lows, because Dell, is back squatting in the base, and HP is out of the base and maybe building a higher low, right? You kind of came into that earnings open area and failed that I've talked about last few weeks, but nonetheless, think those look good. Frog, right? Let's go over this IGV, right? The IGV looks awesome. It's digesting in a perfect way. This is exactly what we wanted to see. Snow, your leader, right? This is another one. If I didn't mention it as one that was buyable on Friday, it looked awesome right off the 20. Toast is one I got. I'm going through these leaders. Palantir looks absolutely awesome. This should be on the list. I don't know why it's not. Path, right? Talk about stage 2, right? Go to a weekly chart. Big stage 2 base, right? Dash, big stage 2 base breakout. Workday, big stage 2 base. Like, these things are all moving into stage 2. Team, right? A cut base, but stage 2 breakout. ESTC, same thing, cut base. GWRE, same thing, right? Big stage 2 base breaking out. RNG, right? A name that's already in stage 2 and it's building a flag right now, going through some flags. I think TTAN is another one I had in there, right? They all look identical. They all have that massive stage 1 base, and they're moving into stage 2, and they look pretty good. GTLB, right, is building a flag here. Sorry, I got my charts a little bit mixed up, getting a little bit used to deep view here. Hope you guys are liking it. But Fiven, another flag in that software group. Spotify, this is a possible one that's going to move into stage 2 here. Would be interesting. You got a big base there. I think Fig is another one that's got a big base down here that I don't mind. Unity is another one that has a massive base overall. It's definitely an uptrend in the last month or two, but overall has a really big base that I want to continue to keep an eye on here. ZS is another one, right? Is it going to emerge out of its weekly cut base? It could. Are these ones next? I don't know, but I want to focus on the ones that are acting the best. Chime, power earnings gap flag, MANH, power earnings gap flag, QLYS, right? You get the earnings gap up, you're digesting. Maybe we get an undercut and rally of the prior low. Go to hourly chart, it's like really easy to see. Right, big low spot right there. Can we undercut that and rally back through? That would be a nice spot to watch. I think this is a name I'm just going to continue to keep an eye on. Lines up right with the 20 day. I think it looks awesome. I think this group in general is one to continue to keep an eye on. But Frog, right, you're building a base. Super nice washout into the 50 day on Friday, right? And that offered a great spot, whether you waited for a 620 setup or, you bought it right off the 50 day, risking a close below it on the daily. Nonetheless, I think it looks absolutely awesome. I think an inside day, like I said, if the market washes out for a day and we get an inside day on stuff like this, that would be awesome. MongoDB, right? Another one, building a flag, right? Inside week, right under a pivot. I think this name looks pretty good. I will watch this through that Friday high. Will be an interesting spot. Looks like a nice little flag setup. Any other ones? PanW, I guess, cyber ETF stuff, but nonetheless, right, kind of squats right back in the base. Is it trying to build a higher low? Maybe. I will watch it through the 20 day, which is Friday and Thursday's high. Lines up to a nice spot. I think this chart looks pretty good. Rubrik earnings, and I think this PanW earnings in 9 days, but Rubrik, another one, earnings in 4 days, but nonetheless, it's building a flag. One of the leading names, whether it's software or your cybersecurity, right? Same thing, but they look awesome, and I want to continue to keep an eye on these. SMCI, forgot to throw this one in there with that HPE and Dell, right? Earnings gap up, back through the 200, digesting, building a nice flag, inside day, right? It's in that group, so if that group can wake up, maybe SMCI can wake up. I think if you're talking about, groups rotating together, I think SMCI is a good one to watch with that group. And Zebra is another one in that group as far as SMCI and HPE and Dell, where you get a big gap up, you kind of pull into, a prior pivot, whether you're looking at a weekly chart or a monthly chart, you find support, you bounce, let it continue building out here. I think it would look pretty awesome. And Zeta is another cybersecurity name, building a flag. Like, these names are all digesting in a nice way. Maybe give us an inside day tomorrow and just maybe a few you know, 1, 2, 3 more days of action on some of these, continue building out their little mini bases, mini flags they're building, and I think they're already ready to go. So we'll see if they can offer us a good spot. I should have thrown Palantir on this list. I just already own it. That's the only reason why I didn't. And same thing with Toast. These things are acting awesome. They look awesome, and hopefully they can continue following through. And the market doesn't just break down. But if it happens, it happens, and you got to prepare for it. But last but not least, I wanted to throw this SpaceX on here. Right, the group is pretty weak. I will say RDW, not too bad. It's above the 50. It's trying to possibly put in an inside day to build a higher low. Rocket Labs kind of shitting its pants. Doesn't look too good. You know, not my favorite. But the SpaceX, man, it's digesting in an awesome way. It found support on Friday. It was green. Inside day super tight right off that 20-day. The weekly chart is an inside week as well. Super, super tight. It's building a nice little range, and we're kind of towards that bottom part of the range. So I like this spot for a push through Friday's high as a higher low setup. I think this looks really, really good. So I will continue to monitor this stuff. There's so many other things I didn't talk about, right? Gold names, whether you look at GLD or just go through all the GDX holdings, the absolute monsters here. In this group, whether it's SSRM at new highs, HL, right? So many names. AEM, WPM, like these names. Some of these are going parabolic. Maybe could be watching for some possible shorts if they can continue higher, or I'll just let them flag out again, build higher lows, then we can go for them. But copper was another one I talked about on Friday. SCCO, right? FCX, this group's huge, right? BHP, I think, is copper related. This thing's breaking out of a base into new highs. HBM, ERO, so many bases, and these things are acting awesome. Continue to keep an eye on these metals and mining name and copper. ARCG looks awesome, highest volume ever. It looks like our highest volume in a year. And that is going to be your B-Fly, your TEM, which looks awesome, but I can't be going for it when it's up 3 days in a row like this, unless you bought the base breakout or the gap through the 200. Me personally would rather wait for some better risk reward and let it pull back, let it build a flag, let it build that first flag out of the base. Nonetheless, man, these things look so good. That group is TXG, GH, Eli Lilly, NTRA if you want to get into your XBI biotech names. And yeah, there's so many, whether it's, you know, restaurant stocks, right? Airbnb, I think, looks awesome. Cake is continuing higher. Eat looks great. Booking is part of that. Is part of that group, which looks pretty good. And then DoorDash is also part of that, which is pushing out of a little pivot. I also want to go over IBIT, so I'm trying to go over everything and be quick, right? Bitcoin, right, which let's go over my trading view here, right? Digesting in an absolute awesome way here over the weekend. I think it looks good, right? Futures, cruise a little weak. Kospi's get a little bit weak here. Bitcoin, like I said, super nice digestion. Gold is just continuing higher. The Russell looks like it could build a higher low off the 50. Same thing with your Dow Jones. The ES, you know, maybe not my favorite inside day. Looks like it wants to push lower as it lost the 20-day, but barely regained it. Maybe the dollar's in for a little bit of a bounce into the 200-day and the markets are weak. I don't know, but yeah, not my favorite look here on the NQ. You lost the 50-day. You're building a bear flag, right? However you want to look at it. Nonetheless, and then I think China's getting hit pretty hard. Whatever. I don't want to talk about this stuff too much. Silver's kind of a laggard. You know, gold is really what you want to focus on if you want to go for that trade. Let's go back here to deep view. Talk about some more interesting stuff, right? Bitcoin, like I talked about, let this thing digest. Unless it continues higher for another day or two and IBIT and ETHA gets super extended, even though they already are 10x ATRs from the 50-day, and offer possible short spots. I think that could definitely be something, right? You got to pivot right here as a double top short sale, maybe a breach of the 200 and then a failure next week. That could be interesting as well. As far as names to watch for sideways to buy, or maybe another one where it's like a DTSS, PURR, could be an interesting one. And Circle, I think those are the only interesting ones, right? Back above the 200, nice to see that. Maybe a breach and failure of the 200 as a short spot. I don't know, but I would rather let this stuff go sideways for now, and possibly buy a little bit of a pair trade here. I thought was a funny thing. Lyft possibly setting up in a nice little first flag out of the 200-day, and then Uber like a big weekly base here. So not these names I genuinely do not care about, and I really won't be trading. I'd rather focus on other stuff, but it's interesting to keep an eye on these. And yes, I saw MP, right, get back above the 200-day, and I saw USAR, but I'm not interested, at least not yet. I will say I do like this UMAC, but the only problem with this is the group absolutely sucks. So I'd rather not focus on stuff in a weak group, right? Let's start the week off right by being patient, seeing how the earnings play out, focusing on the top industry groups and the best setups inside of those. I hope to have enough time soon to be able to make a video on, you know, how I scan, the scanners that I use, right? It'll be uploaded to X, YouTube, things like that. And I'm also super excited to announce that I am joining Traderline and DeepView's team. So I hope you all have a great start to the week, and I will see you all tomorrow. Peace.